Hey guys, did you ever lived in a locality with an abandoned building or a scary sight? You have always seen cities with much traffic, industries and hustle and bustle. Of course, that's city life. But here are some cities which are abandoned and scary too. And interestingly, these cities have many stories to tell you. So let us begin with world's 5 most abandoned and scary cities. Pripyat, Ukraine. At 1:23 am on April 26, 1986, a catastrophic meltdown took place inside reactor number 4 at the Soviet nuclear power plant at Chernobyl. The explosion that followed sent flames and radioactive material soaring into the skies over Pripyat, a nearby city built to house the plant's scientists and workers. It took 36 hours before the town's 49,000 residents were evacuated, and many later suffered severe health effects as a result of their brief exposure to the fallout. Soviet authorities later sealed off an 18-mile exclusion zone surrounding Chernobyl, leaving Pripyat an abandoned ghost town forever. Oradour-sur-Glane, French. One of the afternoon of June 10, 1944, the village of Oradour-sur-Glane has seen one of the worst massacres of French civilians during the World War II, in what is believed to have been an act of revenge for the town's support of the French resistance. A Nazi Waffen SS detachment rounded up and murdered 642 of its residents and burned most of their houses to the ground. The men were taken to Burns and machine gunned. A new Oradour-sur-Glane was built nearby after the war ended, but French president ordered that the burned out ruins of the old town be left untouched as a monument to the victims. Hashima Island, Japan. Today, Hashima Island is a vacant city of concrete seawalls and deserted buildings, yet it was once among the most densely populated places on the planet. A small island off the coast of Nagasaki was first settled in 1887 as a coal mining colony. It was later purchased by Mitsubishi, which built some of the world's first multi-story reinforced concrete buildings to house its bursting population. Hashima remained a hive of activity for the next several decades, especially during the World War II, when the Japanese forced thousands of Korean laborers and Chinese to toil in its mines. 40 years of neglect have left Hashima a ruin of collapsed staircases and apartments. Many of its high rises are still old televisions and other relics from the mid-20th. The island was officially opened for tourists in 2009. Bherosa, Cyprus. In the early 1970s, the immaculate beaches of Bherosa, Cyprus served as one of the most popular millionaires' playgrounds in the Mediterranean. The suburb boasted a thriving tourism economy, and celebrities such as Elizabeth Taylor were known to take in the sand and sun at its high-class beachfront hotels. All that changed in August 1974 when Turkey invaded Cyprus and occupied its northern third in response to a Greek nationalist-led coup. Herosa's 15,000 residents fled the city in terror, leaving their valuables and livelihood behind. Most assumed that they would return once the fighting stopped, but due to the ongoing political situation, they never returned. The few explorers who have ventured into the no man's land describe the resort as crumbling ghost town. Tourists have grown through the floors of restaurants and homes, and most of the former residents' belongings have been looted or destroyed. What is left stands as a spooky time capsule of the 1970s. Bodie, California. Bodie, California was officially founded in 1876 after miners stumbled upon rich deposits of gold and silver in its hillside. Gold-crazed prospectors flocked to the settlement at a rate of more than 2 dozen per day in the late 1870s, and its population eventually soared to some 10,000 people. Thanks to larger-than-life accounts of whiskey-fueled shootouts, the outpost soon earned a reputation as a sea of sin, filled with rough men and opium dens. Like most boomtowns, Body eventually went bust. By the 1880s, it had outgrown its infrastructure, and a succession of harsh and deadly winters convinced many of its prospectors to move to more profitable localities. When the last residents finally shipped, since then Bori has been known as one of the nation's most well-preserved ghost towns, and tourists flocked to the site to explore its 1880s Methodist church, salons and post office, as well as the ruins of a burned out bank vault. Fordlandia, Brazil. In 1927, Henry Ford began working on Fordlandia, a massive rubber plantation in the jungles along Brazil's Tapajós River. The automotive magnate needed the town as a steady source of rubber for his car tires, but he also saw the venture as a chance to bring small town American values to the Amazon. Unfortunately for Ford, his experiment was doomed almost from the start. Fordlandia's rubber trees fell victim to leaf fungus, and its employees chafed under the town's strict regulations, which included a ban on alcohol. Clashes between Brazilian laborers and American managers soon became a common occurrence. During one riot over cafeteria rules, Fordlandia's employees destroyed most of their mess halls and machetes and pushed the town's trucks into the river. Henry Ford eventually sank $20 million into his would-be workers' paradise, but the town failed to produce any latex for these automobiles. In 1945, the wilderness has reclaimed large portion of Fordlandia's campus in the years since, but many of its buildings are still standing, and the town has become a minor tourist destination.